Last year, Donald Trump and the elites behind him tried to get something started with Captain Kirk, but had failed to do so, as I was going into on the streets yesterday. You know, their narrative is falling apart, and people just ain't buying into that bullshit no more. You know, some people fall for it because they're retarded, you know, this Democrat versus Republican thing, but they're really trying to incite a civil war, and a lot of people just ain't falling for it, so they're just having a hard time pushing it. You know, with the latest ISIS shooting and everything, their narrative's falling apart, so they got to really get things started. You know, and then you got the shutdown approaching. Man, all this shit happening at the same time. Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And a shout out to the Akims out there in four corners of the earth who claim this truth. Raka the Yahweh, Raka the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Rakatum. So getting right into this, you know, first getting into what they tried to do last year with Captain Kirk, you know, and all that bullshit.
The chaos in Minnesota isn't by accident. It's chaos by design. The global elites, through their hijacked CIA, foreign puppet masters, and bought-off agencies, are deliberately pushing for civil war. Official government documents, declassified memos, and CIA leaks going back decades spell it out plain. This has always been the plan. After the Charlie Kirk assassination, they accelerated the timeline. That hit wasn't random. It was the green light to ignite their vision, fracture the nation, and force the collapse they crave. Why? To disarm Americans completely, to collapse society, to dissolve the Republic, to lock every last one of us into their borderless one-world slave state. Stay tuned, because understanding the playbook is the only way we can destroy it. Control. That's not hyperbole. The globalist tyrants in walls literally called for civil war on live television.
When things looked really bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held that line for the nation.
Look at this retard, his dumbass sign language. I mean, what a fucking dork.
Now we may be in that moment that the nation's looking to us to hold the line on democracy.
Meanwhile, in Arizona, the Democrat Attorney General is telling people it's legal to use lethal force against ICE agents in the streets. Buildings are burning, streets are filled with tear gas,
Yep,
and the media is already
purpose.
spinning it as organic outrage. But you and I know better. This isn't spontaneous, it's orchestrated. And it's straight out the playbook, made famous by legends like Bill Cooper, rest his soul, who warned us about the divide and conquer strategy of the power elite.
This country was founded by dangerous men. Amen. And the moment the people in this country cease to be dangerous men, it's going to be the day we cease to have a country. And I'm going to tell you right now, unless we can be successful in creating a real free press, where the American people get different viewpoints other than those expressed in the establishment-controlled media, there's going to be a civil war in this country, and it's going to come soon. The only thing that can stop it is by waking up vast amounts of sleeping people. Sheeple is what they are. They are following the Judas goat right into the shearing pins, and from there they will go to the slaughter, and they will not know that anything is wrong until they smell the blood of the sheeple in front of them.
This is why Israel are paying off social media influencers to spread propaganda. The same reason the Clinton campaign in 2016 had almost every mainstream journalist on their books, as exposed by WikiLeaks at the time. It's the same reason fact-checkers were created, to control the narrative, to suffocate debate, to ignite civil war and destroy the Republic. Charlie Kirk knew. Before he was assassinated by the power elite, he warned that civil war was coming because the elite were creating the conditions necessary for it.
When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens.
Think about it. The globalists, the central bankers, the shadowy figures in Davos and beyond, they thrive on division. They want America fractured along every fault line. Race, class, politics, you name it. Why? Because a united republic is their worst nightmare. A civil war is their golden ticket to use the national emergency to seize control and crush dissent, and usher in that new world order and tyrannical one-world government they've been planning for decades.
We have before us the opportunity to forge
You remember this
for
speech.
future generations.
And Biden gave the same speech in 2014.
Not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
This is their ultimate goal. First, disarm the American people. They'll trigger it with the Insurrection Act, declare emergency, suspend the Constitution, and send troops door to door to seize every firearm. Martial law dressed as protection. Second, disarm the American nation itself. Strip sovereignty, dissolve borders, fold America into their borderless one-world empire. No more republic, just subjects. Gaza has become their testing ground. Americans are next on their menu. The tactics are identical. They use tools like Palantir to categorize and populate kill lists, and ramp up the violence using false flags and agent provocateurs, pushing things over the edge. One incident will lead to another, prompting even more over-the-top responses.
Yep, we said
Surveillance
multi
points, checkpoints, digital IDs.
events.
It's all in the pipeline. If you're not protecting yourself online in 2026, you're walking into a digital prison of your own making. Every click tracked, every search logged, every profile quietly built.
So, like everything else, though, they are tracking your every move. Of course they are. That's why there will be a famine of the word. And like everything else, though, this is coming from a veteran. I played this a little bit on the streets, but I'm going to play this in its entirety. You know, because, hey man, he's telling you what's next. A series of events. You know, it's not just one, but a bunch of them, but large ones. They tried to do that with the Captain Kirk assassination last year.
So what do I think they're going to do in 2026? I do think they're going to take a shot at a Reichstag moment. A lot of people were looking for this in 2025. I was as well, where they could use a false flag, Putin-esque attempt at a attack on American soil to consolidate control and bring in the military, bring in the National Guard and all those things. And that never really happened. They tried to push it a little bit with the Charlie Kirk stuff, and then, Antifa is the enemy, anti-fascist, which never made sense, and they're still trying to figure that out. But they tried it a little bit, like they did some test cases. They wanted to have more control over the National Guard, and that has kind of, basically shut down for them, except in D.C., where he has more control. But now we see the National Guard deployments being pulled back from the Democrat cities. They still have troops in red states, where the governors are more than willing to do whatever Trump wants. That's in New Orleans and then as well as Memphis. But it didn't go the way they planned on that. There are things that they are looking at in 2026 with this rapid deployment response force with the National Guard that all of them were supposed to create. I believe it was 300 individuals per. There's already a rapid response team for each National Guard for emergency situations and like environmental disasters, things like that. But I think they're going to try to.
Can we talk about the storm of the century?
Spring or summer. It really depends on how far down the rabbit hole we go on Epstein, and if we get closer to a threat for him, he'll go earlier. Like he'll try to do something earlier and hope that he can get people in a situation where they cause havoc, much like we're now seeing with the Brian J. Cole guy, January 6th, boom boom stick suspect who believed Trump's lies. They'll try to get people in that realm to do those things to cause havoc. And it might even be something that he's involved in and his true loyalists, help stage where people lose their lives. And I hate to say that, but let's be fucking honest. He doesn't give a shit about lives. He gives a shit about staying out of jail. And he gives a shit about having attention and being in charge, being in control. So I think in 2026 there's going to be an attempt there where he's going to hope that enough people believe him. But this is the problem that they're running into because they were built off of QAnon and they were built off conspiracy theories. Their own people are questioning them about Charlie Kirk, about the attack on the Texas ICE facility, where the only people that were, heard were immigrants who were working at the facility. So many spaces where nothing is just making sense to a group that you created to ask questions, and now that you're in charge, Trump and the GOP and conspiracy theorists are in charge, they can't seal the deal. They can't sell the story on these things because they trained their base to ask me questions. And so that's hurting them. That is absolutely hurting them. And it will hurt any kind of attempt that they have in a Reichstag moment where they try to gain control and shut down elections. They can't shut down elections. That'll be part of it, the fear game, where don't go vote because you're going to be in danger. They're absolutely in a lot of these states, they're going to try to suppress the vote, and they've done that multiple times before, but the federal judges have stood up, state judges have stood up and said no in a lot of these spaces. I'm not saying it has worked all the time, but the judges have really kind of helped prevent that from going too far. And I think that's the combination of a Reichstag moment to help with elections and midterms and keep people scared and try to lock down elections. I don't think it'll be successful. I think the judges will come in and fix that. It's going to come down to people's personal fear. And if he makes them scared enough with all his bluster and his bullshit, just like he did with the National Guard in 2025 in the military and saying he was going to take over and be in control, it didn't work. And so please remember that as you go into 2026, he's going to try that. He's going to try to work the fringes and keep people from voting with a moment that he creates, a violent moment that he creates and then the threat of violent moments that he is going to talk about. So please be aware of that. But that's what I think. That's one of the big things that's coming in 2026, and a lot of it is going to be directly related to how far we get into the Epstein files, and how much of that comes out, and how threatened he feels. That's what it comes down to. Is, you know, he's willing to do anything to stay out of jail and to keep himself from getting in trouble. He is the world's most dangerous little boy.
Yeah, and Bunker Boy was another term for him, right? You remember that in the first term, right? And why do you think he wants Greenland? Because Greenland is a place to hide out. If there's ever been a nuclear war, they have more fallout shelters in Greenland than they do anywhere else. I mean, they just made 2 Greenland movies, right? You know, as I talked about that on the street yesterday, futures rebound from session low amid FX mayhem is earning avalanche government shutdown loom. You know, because again, you know, there's going to be a shutdown most likely on the 31st. U.S. equity futures are weaker, but have retracted much of their overnight flows as geopolitics and U.S. dollar royal markets ahead of significant earnings this week as Mag 7 earnings reports kick off this week as of 08:15. S&P futures are down 0.1%, while NASDAQ futures are 0.2 lower. Mag 7 stocks are most lower in pre-market trading. Both cyclics and defenses are weaker. The dollar extended its sell-off on Monday as speculation first reported here swirled and the U.S. could coordinate intervention with Japanese authorities to support the yen. So like everything else, though, you know, they're not telling you that the dollar really ain't worth much these days, and it's imploding, man. It just, you know, no matter what, they are not going to save the dollar. And as they even get closer and closer to the shutdown, even more people are getting out of the dollar system, which is the old world order where the U.S. dollar ruled. See, they got to have a new one, and like everything else, so they can blame it on the state of emergency. They can blame it on all these other things as well as the shutdown. See, a series of events is happening. State of emergency. Oh, we've heard that before, even over a coronavirus hoax, right? You know, state of emergency, which doesn't really mean a lot, but here we go. Across the U.S. as monster storm hits 200 million. Well, okay, that would be a good reason to declare a state of emergency, even though it doesn't have much significance, because COVID was nothing more than a hoax, but they declared state of emergency, which so doesn't really mean shit, but if it did, this is what you would declare it for, right? But we all know that this is all manufactured, all at the same time. Dangerous monster winter storm sweeping across the U.S. has plunged much of the country into chaos. You know, they told you it was going to go into chaos, right? Leaving at least 7 people dead, more than 1 million without power, and nearly 200 million affected by extreme cold ice and heavy snow. In the south, where severe winter weather is less common, the storm has been especially devastating. Louisiana health officials confirmed 2 deaths from hypothermia in Caddo Parish, where 2 men were found dead amid bitter cold. In Texas, authorities reported 1 person found dead in Austin with hypothermia, the presumed cause. So, like everything else, though, you know, it's the storm of the century. You know? And here we go. Post-winter storm, deep freeze pushes power grids to brink as feds move to avert blackouts. Too late. Roughly 185 Babylonians remain under winter alerts today as Arctic air continues to pour deep into the central and eastern states. Wind chills are dropping into the minus 20s and minus 30s in some areas, with temperatures running 10 to 40 degrees below seasonal averages. So, like everything else, though, it's getting really grim. Meanwhile, in New England and Boston Oil, yes, oil is stunning 39% of electricity production. So, yeah, seems perfect timing, you know, as they are still trying to manufacture the crises in Minneapolis because it's on fire. Enough of DC's orders. Venezuela's interim president, Rodriguez, said she is tired of American directives and urged the U.S. to stop its interference in her country's affairs. You know, because they keep on blowing up ships and telling them who they can and can't trade with. Venezuela's interim president said she had enough of orders from D.C., making her first public challenge to the White House since the abduction of Venezuela leader Nicolas Maduro earlier this month. Rodriguez assumed the Venezuelan leadership following the U.S. raid and kidnapping of Maduro on the 3rd of January. Initially, U.S. President Trump vowed that D.C. would run Venezuela, but later supported Rodriguez during the interim period. Enough already of D.C.'s orders regarding politicians in Venezuela, Rodriguez told a group of oil workers in Puerto La Cruz during an event on Sunday's broadcast by the state-run channel. So, like everything else, though, we'll just see what Trump wants to do here. Later, she kissed his ass before she praised, or Trump praised her as a terrific person. Yeah. There's a lot of ass kissing going on, but nonetheless, though, it's she doesn't seem to be puckering up to him because I think he's going to have to change it. Pentagon releases new defense strategy. 4 things you should know. The Pentagon releases new defense strategy starting late January 23rd, placing Homeland and the surrounding sphere of influence as a top priority for the U.S. military. Number 1 sphere of influence, Pentagon describes defending U.S. homeland as a foremost priority Trump has given to the military. U.S. forces began amassing near Latin America in August 2025, carrying out attacks against boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific for months. But like everything else, though, they pretty much, though, creating wars. Start a war. Why not? Fuck it. Fuck it. Nobody's going to stand up to them, right? Hey, this is all plans of the Most High. Obama and Clinton urging Americans to stand up as protests spread across the U.S. So there you go. This shows you that it's directive, right? When you got ex-presidents telling you to revolt and all that, you know that it's a setup. You know that it's a state. We don't protest anything. And we definitely don't get involved with these dumb dick-sucking bum politicians that don't give a fuck about anyone anyways. So we know that's all part of the dog and pony show. Former U.S. President Barack Obama and Clinton urged Americans to stand up and defend core U.S. values. In a statement on Monday, Barack and Michelle Obama described Freddie's death as heartbreaking tragedy. Yep, they want you to protest. Protest it. Go and protest. Get yourself arrested, right? That's what they want. Uprisings. Yep. And these people are dumb enough to fall for it because, the right-left paradigm. And then others aren't dumb enough. Their narrative is falling apart. Because, of course, they're standing up to ISIS, which they created to overthrow the president of Syria. But, like everything else, though, I don't call them ISIS. I call them ISIS because they're the same terrorists. They're the same Edomites. It's the same bullshit. Edomite supremacy. Israeli strikes southern Lebanon. The IDF said the operation was in response to Hezbollah's ceasefire. Oh, okay, so they ceased fire and then you carried out attacks because, oh no, they violated it again. Israeli Defense Forces said it carried out airstrikes on several Hezbollah-linked targets in southern Lebanon. Sure. The operation was launched in response to violations of the ceasefire. Oh, okay, but the Israeli state doesn't violate ceasefire. You see how hypocritical this is, right? So nonetheless, though, free to go to war for Iran. Another U.S.-Israeli attack would be an existential war, because this is who they really want a war with. Anyways, and they just, doing these little things to Lebanon to show, oh yeah, we have superiority and we're going to hit them. We're going to hit them hard. Tehran will respond in a way that eliminates any incentive for restraint, unleashing a conflict that would be impossible to control. So like everything else, though, they're pretty much saying, go ahead and try it. In the first year of his second term, U.S. President Trump pursued a regime change strategy in Iran. Last June, Israeli state launched a dramatic military campaign based on a strategy known as top-down government collapse, bottom-up uprising. Israeli and American planners assumed that by assassinating top Iranian political, military, security, and nuclear officials, the population would embrace regime change and flood the streets. But that didn't happen. They even killed their leader. They killed their president. In the so-called helicopter crash. And none of that worked. None of it did. They further assumed that by targeting Iran's missile capabilities, they would prevent any counterattack, paving the way for a rapid collapse. The June strikes killed dozens of senior Iranian officials, yet the population largely rallied behind their government. So every attempt has failed. They tried. So like everything else though, while the government has regained control for the time being, simmering dissatisfaction could reignite large-scale protests. Political fragmentation among Iran's four main currents, conservatives, reformists, moderates, and nationalists, complicates national cohesion, making broad-based reform and unity essential to long-term stability. The people of Iran cannot withstand the escalating trend of rising prices, and so they're hoping to really bring them down with that. So, hey, like everything else though, we definitely see that they have. Well, will Muslim countries allied with the U.S. be able to prevent another war and facilitate a deal with Iran, or will Israeli ambitions prevail? Well, we already know the least of the flock shall draw them out. And like everything else though, as they push for that, they're going to push for the New World Order, duh! To get everybody micro-C-hip, to be implanted with a device to track their every move. Yemen's Enzarella warns the U.S. Israeli of new Red Sea attacks if Iran is struck. So like everything else though, right now they haven't been firing upon that, but they will fire away if they should even think about attacking Iran. Yemen's Enzarella resistance movement has warned the U.S. and the Israeli state that they will resume their drone and missile strikes in the Red Sea against Israeli-affiliated vessels and ships bound for Israeli-occupied territories in reprisal for any adventurism in the region. So like everything else though. This comes as aircraft carrier USS Lincoln and guided missile destroyers have crossed into the region. U.S. President Trump said the ships are being moved just in case he decides to take action against Iran. Emily Bagashi made the remarks during a weekly press conference where he addressed recent military activities by the U.S. in the region. Vowing that, okay, any attacks here, we will resume attacks against your ships. This is what we could do to help out. So like everything else though, hey, if they want a war, well, they're going to get one, should they decide to attack Iran. And we know Donald Trump is going to do whatever Benjamin Netanyahu tells him.
Another day has passed with more moves coming from the United States and its allies, more deployment, this time closer to areas that the United States assumes that Iran cannot reach. And there were statements from Donald Trump as well in relation to a potential solution that he's not guaranteeing and is completely unsubstantiated. He's coming with statements like Iran wants a deal, as if Iran is calling him every day for a deal, and that he's not ruling out an attack against Iran. But one of the most significant statements that we had today is the statement that came from the Hezbollah brigades in Iraq. They said something that might change the equation, with now more fronts confirming that they will be participating in case an attack against Iran happens, and it will lead to an all-out war. Before we get into this video, make sure you subscribe to newsvpro.com. We've all misinformation all with current affairs, and it also has a bias indicator to tell you it's a quick brief daily digest or deep. And our intra-care tech Diego Garcia base. The Diego Garcia base is in US and UK forces had deployment to the Diego Garcia base. The Diego Garcia base is in the Indian Ocean, where the United States considers it a place that is relatively far from Iran and is more difficult to attack, between 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers, depending on the location from Iran, because of course Iran is a very big country. Now Iran on the ground, they have the capacity to attack this location. They have missile capabilities and they have advanced methods that they can attack this location, and this is where the United States keeps its B-2 bombers and B-52 bombers alongside other arsenal and other equipment that they would want to target Iran with. That is, of course, apart from the USS Abraham Lincoln, which is now based very close to Iran, but is remaining off the shores of Oman to avoid detection or be as far as possible from Iran, but within
Cowards.
the range, within the reach. They're still within reach of Iran, and Iran is capable of conducting a lot of damage against them. Now, Donald Trump is saying that Iran is contacting him. Iran is contacting him and they want a solution. However, we have completely different confirmations coming from Iran that the first strike will lead to an unprecedented attack. The first strike will be viewed as a declaration of an all-out war. They're not willing to settle for tit for tat. We've had a couple of statements coming from Iranian diplomats in relation to statements coming from third parties telling them that if the United States attacks, don't have a very big response. It looks like the United States from these statements is preparing a certain scenario where everyone can go down the ladder respectfully, but something that Donald Trump can actually portray as a victory. Now, mind you, there is another notion, and it's not necessarily true, but there is that notion that Donald Trump might actually want to have this escalation with Iran, have a bit of back and forth attacks, to have the final excuse for the United States to take itself out of the region in terms of forces. He has removed forces from bases. The US withdrew from the biggest base in Iraq, Ain al-Assad. Trump in his previous term withdrew a lot of forces from Syria, and now they're on the way of removing the remaining forces. They removed the support of SDF. Now they're telling them there's a new reality. So that might be an option. Now that's not necessarily entirely true, because the United States still has Israel over there, and both of them are completely and strategically connected to each other. There is no separation between the United States and Israel. And from an Israeli perspective, their calculations differ from the US calculations in terms of broader strategy. Israel still does have its own interests that are not necessarily totally aligned with the United States of America. They are tied to a very large extent, but there are certain things where you might find certain disagreements in certain arenas, which is completely natural. However, the ties are completely there, and the United States and any attack against Iran will be completely coordinated with Israel. That's something that no one can deny. Now, in the past couple of days, there have been multiple statements coming from resistance fronts that have declared that they will be participating if any attack takes place against Iran. But today there was a very significant one coming from the brigades of Hezbollah in Iraq. This is another that is heavily backed by Iran that said today, if Iran is attacked, this will lead to an all-out war. Kataib Hezbollah, an Iraqi paramilitary group, has warned of a total war if Iran is attacked, signaling it would militarily support Iran if conflict breaks out as the United States amasses military assets in the region. Abu Hussein al-Hamidawi issued a fiery statement late on Sunday calling on fighters to prepare for war. He said that all fighters in the East and the West will have to prepare. And they're saying there's going to be an all-out war. Now that's just one movement from the movements that Iran supports in Iraq. We haven't spoken about the rest of them, and they are very heavily equipped with drones, with missiles, with capabilities. They can do a lot of harm. They attacked Israel many times during the genocide, and they had very successful attacks. This is the third front that is now declaring it will be entering a war with the United States if an attack happens against Iran. Now, of course, the others were, number one, Yemen. Yemen said that they will be participating in an attack, and they were releasing footage recently of tankers being attacked and some of their previous attacks, and saying soon we will be attacking more in case, of course, there's an attack against Iran. And also there was a statement coming from Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah have been asked in recent weeks whether they will be participating or not. And they maintained strategic ambiguity to a very large extent. They said, in the battle between the United States and Iran, we don't take a passive position. We are not in a position where it doesn't matter to us. However, they still were short of confirming, and that's from their Secretary General, Sheikh Naim Qasim, if they will actually be participating or not. Now, chances are, if Iran is attacked, this time it might be an order that we haven't witnessed so far for the past several years. As a matter of fact, something that we haven't witnessed ever. During the genocide, there were multiple fronts attacking Israel. However, these attacks were very calculated attacks in a way to not attract an all-out war, because any movement that belongs to the resistance axis or the resistance allies has its own interest and its own country's interest, and they do not necessarily want to lead to an all-out war or give an excuse to their enemies to conduct an all-out war. They do have several calculations, and we had examples of that. An example that doesn't fit exactly there is Yemen, that wasn't really taking any sort of or giving any sort of excuses, because they were attacking the United States, they were attacking UK forces, they were attacking Israel, anyone linked with Israel, and they were attacked heavily for that, yet all of that did not deter them. And it led the United States to open communication channels with them, with the mediation of Oman, channels that the American side actually opened since the beginning. However, they were very arrogant by telling Ansarullah in Yemen that there will be no cease of attacks unless you stop your attacks against Israel, and they told them that is not going to happen. And it took 4 aircraft carriers that were expelled from the Red Sea following successive and successful attacks coming from Yemen against them, up until the American side decided to reach a deal against Israel's will. This is one of those examples where there is a clash of interest even between these two administrations that are intertwined together. One of them was the previous withdrawal of the aircraft carrier that went to the Mediterranean during the beginning of the genocide, supposedly to deter Hezbollah in Iran from attacking Israel, and then later left after 2 months when Hezbollah was still attacking Israel. At the time, the Israeli authorities tried to lobby the United States very heavily to keep them, but that did not succeed. Another example was Yemen, and of course there are other examples within the region. Now, the scenario that I was talking to you about that we haven't seen so far is an all-out front happening without any calculations or too many calculations. This means that Iran, Iraq, Yemen, Lebanon, and potentially other fronts as well will be conducting massive consecutive attacks, both against Israeli assets and American assets. Now, if these attacks were to be concentrated on Israel, we will be talking about a completely different scenario. If 10 to 20,000 missiles are launched at Israel all at once, Israel would not be able to tolerate such an attack. And the resistance front, it has hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of combined drones and missiles and weapons to attack Israel with, meaning they can be conducting an attack such as this for a prolonged period, and Israel would not be able to sustain that. Of course, they will be attacked from Israel and the United States too. However, we have seen so far from the pattern that we had in the past couple of years that no attacks stop the resistance. No attacks stop the resistance in Gaza, which is considered to be the weakest or the least equipped. By no means, of course, the weakest. They were the bravest and the most resisting against this genocide, despite all of the destruction that was happening. They resisted Israel until the last breath. Likewise with Hezbollah, when the Secretary General and the leading command was assassinated and targeted on the ground, the resistance was still attacking to a level where in the final day it was the biggest attack, with 500 missiles and drones approximately being launched at Israel. The same applies to Yemen. And in Iran, the thing that everyone needs to understand is, even if the United States decides to take the move, the very stupid move of targeting either the supreme leader and the leading command, nothing will affect the operational system that takes place in Iran. Iran's command and control is separated into dozens of provinces and cities. Each of them have their own decision-making structure and hierarchy, and they can operate without any communication with the central command. That's what happened in Gaza, that's what happened in Lebanon. This is how they operate, this is how they succeed in continuing to target Israel. Now, if the resistance in Gaza and the resistance in Lebanon managed to continue attacking despite all of the barbarism and destruction and firepower that Israel had against them, imagine what Iran can do in case the United States targets either the supreme leader or the leading command inside the country.
So, like everything else, though, unprecedented response. You know, and that's just it, though, is that, well, we know that eventually this all leads into the Third World War. We're getting closer to it. So we're also getting closer to the New World Order. You know, they have to bring out civil unrest. They have to lock everything down, and they have to be able to come out with a new system. and a government shutdown approaching and all that. Seems like they could coordinate a whole bunch of stuff to where they could actually get this thing going this year if they actually wanted to push it. And we may see a lot of push for it because, hey man, you know, look at the times that we're in. Israeli report says Jordan and United Arab Emirates support potential U.S. attack against Iran. So they got some allies. You know, I mean, of course the U.S. and the Israeli state would have allies too. I mean, it could be an all-out war. Abu Dhabi and Amman provide intelligence, logistics, and missile defense support to U.S. terrorists. Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom would provide logistical and intelligence support to the U.S. military in the event of an attack against Iran. The report said that the move is also backed by Abu Dhabi and several European countries, including the UK. So, such defensive operations would aim to protect the Israeli state, U.S. military bases in West Asia, and key infrastructure in the Gulf, the report said. So, like everything else, though, you know, I think that they're going through with the plan anyways. And, yeah, we're going to see some shit happen. And hopefully we see some ships sunk, too. Israeli Channel 14. U.S. and Israeli state agree on fast, strong attacks against Iran. So there it is. They've already decided. It's already going to happen. The commander of the U.S. Central Command, Cooper, held a meeting on Sunday with senior officials from the Israeli military in Tel Aviv. Meeting discussed several issues, including the situation with Iran. During the meeting, U.S. officials said their full readiness regarding Iran requires time and preparation. However, they stressed that the U.S. is always able and ready to take specific action. Speaking of the possibility of a U.S. attack against Iran, the commander said the U.S.'s thinking is based on carrying out fast, sudden, and clean operation. In addition, U.S. officials believe that changing the current regime is key necessity if an attack were to take place. Separately, the commander of U.S. Central Command confirmed that the U.S. is committed to protecting its allies in West Asia, including the Israeli state, and will not allow them to be harmed. Well, they only have one ally there. Okay, all those other ones are just going on board because they don't want to be attacked by the Israeli state, because Jordan's right there, you know. They don't want to be taken down like Syria and Iraq was. The only reason why they even pretended to go along. So like everything else, though, you know, Esau's our enemy. We know this, but there are still others. Because remember, this is the year of apostasy and sellouts. So, you know, others, they don't want to tell you that Esau's the enemy. You know, they would rather tell you that, oh, you know, he's cool now. You know, some Edomites can make it. Because remember, it's a year of apostasy and sellouts, right? So, you know, that Esau's cool, you know, and that he can be trusted. Though, you know, he can't be trusted, right? So, like everything else, though, you know, we're... this is all set. You know, the battlefield's already ready to go. And we are in the stages of the things that Yahushua said would take place before his return. And we know that they have plans for a civil war. They haven't quite kicked it off yet. But we are at the beginning of Jacob's trouble, because who's going to be on the face of everything? It's going to be Jake, right? So like everything else, though, you know, specific question was asked and answers were given. So, like everything else, though, we know this passage very well, but it's worth it to read because this is where we are in time. Matthew chapter 24, verse 3, this is the American Standard Version. And as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world, the end of Esau Edom, the end of the rulership? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man lead you astray. You know, that's talking about false teachers, right? Apostates. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the anointed, and shall lead many astray. You know, so like everything else, though, we're going to see lots of sellouts leading people astray, right? And you shall hear of wars and rumors of war. See that you are not troubled, for these things must needs to come to pass. But the end is not yet, so we're not quite there yet. For nation shall rise against nation, that's insurrections, that's civil unrest, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and earthquakes in divers places. strange weather events, etc., right? Like the storm of the century. Famines, this is going to cause a famine. Of course it is. Because they ain't going to be able to get to those places. But all these things are the beginning of travail. Then they shall deliver you up into under tribulation, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all the nations for my name's sake. And that is having the names Yahweh, Yahweh Shai. Then many shall stumble, and shall deliver up one another, and shall hate one another. So this place, Edom, Esau was created for the stumble. And guess what? 2/3 of our people are going to be caught up in it. And many false prophets shall arise and lead many astray. So that's the key this year. This is the year of apostasy and of sellouts. So we're going to see a lot of that this year. And that's why it was coined that. So hopefully this has been edifying. Got one more here before I close this out. Then I'm going to say Barak of the Yahweh, Barak of the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Brakatum, Jehovah elect. Shalom.
Shalom, called in by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushua, by Shem Kakadash, the bonus of Apostle El's Great Millstone, Shalom to Hopeful Elect, everybody call from GMS Cleveland Kill, but a little more edifying lesson, getting straight into it. Don't know exactly going to get the title, going to be going into the topic though, hey, Esau Edom is showing his horns, and it's funny watching all you Israelites who trust this man, you men, women, and children in both southern and northern kingdom, watch you all be in an uproar about what Esau is doing, and shaking this shit up. And like I said, we're in the time of Jacob's trouble, and it's only going to intensify, man. May Yahweh Shem Shai continue to keep his foot on the gas, okay? Because again, this devil's coming down having great wrath, man. All right? This devil, again, like I said, Revelation 12:12 again. Therefore, rejoice ye heavens, and them that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and this dude from smoking. It says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And these elites, they know they have but a short time. The low-level peon Edomites, they can feel their time is short. We're literally in the year 2026, which is the 250-year anniversary of these America being the world power coming into fruition, going back to 1776. So we see the downfall of this place. They're seeing the downfall of this place. They're seeing them lose. The so-called straight white male, like they like to say, is under attack and all these different things. All right, they're seeing them lose their women. All their women, they were Israelite men. All right, and Esau is angry, man. He's ready. This is what Esau been waiting for. He's been waiting to lash out, man. All right, lash out and try to reestablish that Edomite dominance again in the earth. But it's not going to happen. All right, Esau Edom is at his end. Nevertheless, the Heavenly Father is going to use his temper tantrum. Okay, basically what this is, Esau Edom, he's having a temper tantrum because he's about to get off the game. All right, he's like the Elder Yasharam, I like to give that analogy. You got two brothers, all right, playing the video games, like one controller, they got to take turns, and it's time for one brother to get off, let the other play, but he don't want to do it. He's throwing a temper tantrum. That's Esau Edom. Okay, 6 and 9. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows, man. So the Lord is getting ready to take Esau Edom's power and establish Jacob, okay, into rulership forever. And Esau is having a temper tantrum about it. He's seeing the telltale signs on the wall. Like I said, this is a hot topic in the news, even in, like I said, even by these Edomites talking about the 250th year, and that's the time when the empire usually loses being a superpower. That's usually when the empire goes down. And America is an empire, so it's Babylon the Great in the Holy Scriptures, man. So Esau is gonna come down very wrath, man. It's taking the 2nd and 16th chapter. There should be as madmen sparing none, and still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. So primarily the Israelites, man. Esau getting ready to roll on everybody, even his own, even these Edomites, these low-level peon Edomites who are cheering this shit on. They're getting ready to get rolled on, man. They don't even realize it. Esau Edom, his elites, people are normalizing this what's the word? How to describe it? This basically violation of quote unquote rights, and just troops and any group designated by the government to be able to just come in and just violate your rights. Because again, I see you got this video right here of Elmar Lawyer. Okay, it says the Constitution is done away with. This is draconian law. Again, basically, I watched. I'm not gonna play it. You can go watch this. But it basically, again, ICE no longer. They don't have to have a federal warrant or nothing. They can just go inside your house, man. All right. And all these devils. I got this clip I'm gonna play, Lord willing. These devils are all the same shit. They got the mask up, guns and tasers out. Just like I said, you can't have the sunglasses on. You can't see who they are, and they're just like I said, Esau just on a power trip right now. But again, we're not moved by these things. Like when I see these videos, like I'm not swayed away. I'm completely calm looking at this shit. I'm like, yeah, Esau being a devil, and he's using this as an excuse for his hatred. But at the same time, this is the judgment of Yahweh Shem Shai, because you Israelites, you don't give a fuck what the prophets have to say. You don't care what Yahweh Shem Shai has to tell you through his men. The true prophets, the men, the elders and apostles, great millstone, the men on down, telling you to repent, telling you to come out of America, telling you to stop engaging in this pagan idolatry and look to Yahweh Shem Shai to repent, to change your ways. The men, women, and children of Israel. You don't give a damn. So guess what? The Lord's not gonna give a damn when he sicks Esau on you, man. All right. That's what it is. We all know the precept. Psalm 7. I'm driving. Forgive me. Psalm 17 and 13. All right. The Lord, he said, "Deliver me, O Lord, from men which are thy hand, man." All right. From men which are thy sword. All right. Yahweh Shem Shah is using Esau Edom to come down having great wrath, like I read in Revelation 12. That's how I quoted 2 and 16. They shall be as madmen, sparing none. And they arrested a 5-year-old little fucking Northern Kingdom Jake, all right, to try to bait him to get the rest of the family. We got a bunch of Israelites, Southern and Northern Kingdom now, okay, fucking calling out of school and not coming to school because now these devils are waiting for them at the school. Like I said again, we don't feel like my feelings are neutral. Again, like I said, I have, of course, wrath and indignation for Esau because he's unjustly put his hands upon our people. But I understand, like I said, I understand what's going on. It's like this is in the shock to me. I understand that Yahweh Shem Shai is doing this for judgment's sake, man. It's prophecy. First and foremost, like I said, it's prophecy. Okay, it's the prophecy of Yahweh Shem Shai. Okay, the Lord's movie's playing out, but then like in the flesh, okay, they don't want to listen. All right, so I'm going to play this clip, man. You see the same shit, they yelling, same shit, bro. Same shit Jake been going through. It's just the Lord's getting ready to intensify it again. All right, yelling in the middle of fucking traffic, stopping the car, put it in park, get out the car, don't move. I'm gonna tase you, but move and get out the car. Literally, like people in the comment section were saying, it's like again, like literally to justify anything they want to do to you because they're yelling conflicting orders at you. So if you sit there, they can say, well, he didn't listen to me and get out the car. If you get out the car, he said, well, he didn't listen. I told him not to move. They said that apparently that the proper term, whatever they call it, the death box or whatever. But again, he said same shit. The devil with the mask on, sunglasses, so you can't see who he is. This is regular devils, man. Devils that we work with, devils that, like I said, we walk past in Walmart. It's Esau. But again, the problem is we're not shocked by this. We know who Esau is. We know Esau Edom is the damn devil. The so-called white man is Esau Edom of the Bible. He hates you. He's a devil. He's a wicked. But Jake don't want to hear that, man. The Israelite man and woman, both Northern and Southern Kingdom, they ain't trying to hear that. They hear us bring out Esau the devil, how the Lord's going to put him in slavery under us, and they try to tell us that we're evil. They try to tell us that we're wicked and we're wrong. All right? So we don't like say, bro, fuck these niggas, man. I don't care about this shit. You hear this woman screaming this shit. Hey, you Israelite women, you love this devil. You got nothing but good things to say about Esau, so keep that same fucking energy when this nigga literally is grabbing you out your fucking vehicle in the middle of fucking traffic, man. Taking you to the detention center to get raped.
This is Sky, a Marine Corps veteran and U.S. citizen, along with another U.S. citizen being taken by ICE simply for filming and observing them.
Look at this shit, see? He said, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I don't care what you are. Again, and look, these are Edomites. Again, like I said, these low-level Edomites, they're so stupid, they don't even see the play. Look, we're coming to the time again. Yahweh Shem Shai is finally going to put the spirit on Esau, Edom, these elites, to press the go button on a New World Order. And what they're doing with the immigration, like I said, acting like they're trying to clean the streets of America, all this crap, right? Of going after the tribes, the Israelites, literally, specifically the so-called Negro Latino Native Americans. They're trying to get you Edomites to cheer it on. That's exactly what they're doing. They're falling right into a trap. Esau, he's so IQ, he's so dumb that he doesn't even realize, again, the government, your own government, is getting you used to these fucking federal agents, whoever they want to designate them as, just coming violating your rights, the so-called civil rights. And yes, like I said, putting hands on you, murdering you, putting you to death, beating you, raping you, anything they want to do with complete immunity. So that way, they would come down upon everybody. These are fucking Edomites right here. Like I say, if you film it, well, now I can just say, open your car door, take your seatbelt off and drag you out and beat you and arrest you and take you to some detention center, man. All right? In the middle of fucking traffic. All right? So we see it again, like I said, and we welcome it, man. We welcome the great wrath. We welcome Yahweh Shem Shai ending this society, man. And this is how this society's going to go out. It's going to come out with great wrath, like I read earlier, okay, with the devil come down with great wrath, okay, and then he's going to push the chip, okay, eventually people are going to start fighting back. It's going to be more riots. A lot of these ICE agents who think they're so tough, they're going to start getting put to death by these people, by their own Edomites, their own fellow so-called white men. You just wait till they start violating Esau's rights. Esau's going to start fucking putting these niggas down, all right? And then what? That's going to give Esau's government, okay, what so-called justification to come down with even more draconian law measures. Cause see, they're hindering our federal operation, whatever fucking pre-term Esau wants to use, and then he's gonna come down with even more martial law and say even more checkpoints, even more. And then he's gonna come with the mark of the beast, the microchip. So we see the play, and then that's when Yahweh Shai's gonna come back and stop this devil, man. So we see what's going on. We welcome it. Like I said, man, fuck you Israelites who getting caught up in this shit, crying. This shit's funny to me, bro. Like I said, you the same Israelite men and women and children that tells the prophet that we're wicked when you tell you this man's your enemy. I don't have any enemies. I don't have any enemies. My enemy is Satan, the spiritual demon Satan. That's it. I don't have any enemies. I don't have a nationality. I don't have a nationality. I'm just a believer in white Jesus. Okay, but white Jesus about to come fucking rip you out your home, nigga, and rape your wife and torture you to death, nigga. All right? for no reason. Like I said again, he's doing it to these people. It's supposed to be about immigration. These people aren't armed. They're not harassing you. These are two Edomites just filming this shit. And what? And they're now that gives them just due to just rip you out your car and say unbuckle your seatbelt, come get you. And it's always just so funny because, like I said, watching this situation, because people will have the power to resist and easily deal with these agents, right? But like, you see, you know they're violating your rights, but they don't do anything because they know that the system they have behind them. But see, again, it's funny because you Edomites, you're getting ready to experience the same shit we've been experiencing. Now, don't get me wrong, it's Jacob's trouble, as you clearly see this ICE shit is right there, the tribes. But Esau's feeling, I said you had to allegedly, whether it's real or a psyop, whatever, this Edomite woman get fucking shot in the head in Minneapolis, Minnesota, wherever the fuck he was at. There's gonna be more of that shit, right? You Edomites get in touch. Like I said, this video looks like he's a fucking Edomite army veteran. You get in touch, man. All right? You're not armed. They're not non-U.S. citizens. They're not immigrants. This is your own fellow so-called white man. But you can harass him too. So again, everybody's getting ready to feel. You getting ready to feel what Jake been experiencing. We've been experiencing this. You minding your business. You're trying to go grocery shopping, whatever. And Esau so-called quote unquote as probable cause, and now he wants to harass you. All right? Yelling this shit. This is another day in the Israelite book. In the Israelite day life, man. All right, like I said, again, the Lord is getting ready to judge all this shit. All this is getting ready to happen. The Lord is getting ready to have, again, I can't say he's getting ready, he's doing it. He's getting the northern kingdom, southern kingdom. You're going to get Esau coming with great wrath upon you. He's disappearing you, all right? Jake's scared, crying, trying to record it. All that shit don't matter, man. Esau getting ready. I said, Lord getting put that ancient hatred. He is, Slack, actually saying getting ready. The Lord he has done it. He's doing it. We're witnessing it. Putting that ancient hatred on Esau to just show who he is. He's in that same Christopher Columbus spirit where I'm the devil. I'm the devil, and I have the power to do it, and you can't stop me. That's the spirit Esau's in. And saying, we welcome, like they're saying, ICE would have rolled upon us. I'm not going to give a hard time. I don't care. I go to the center because I understand prophecy. I understand, first and foremost, the Lord's going to deliver his men in this time. But not only that, I understand, look, bro, he really think that he about to reestablish America. Nigga, look, bro, your time is up, nigga. Have your last hurrah. After that, you get ready to go into slavery, man. But anyway.
These people are on meth. These ISIS.
And this is important. They yell these contradictory orders to create the pretext for the violence they have already decided to commit. There's no reality where these men actually believe these small women pose a real threat to them.
Yep, ISIS.
Yeah, you know what I said, like Edomite business said, but again, like I said, man, this is all prophecy. This is the time of Jacob's trouble. Things are only going to intensify. What's going to happen is there's going to be more of these again, these devils. Again, ain't going to show you, bro. It's funny. It's out loud. This is funny. All you people again who scoff and mock the prophets, especially Israelites, you getting ready to see. Esau is showing you who the devil is. There's no other race of men who's doing this shit. It's all a bunch of Edomite so-called white men, lame ass devils, with a bunch of masks on and sunglasses and hats, trying to hide their identity, being the devil.
Yep.
There's no other men. It's a so-called white man. He's the problem. We've been fucking telling you. He's a damn
Jihad, John.
Right? But it's you funny. You people who love him so much. You Israelite women who want to cape for these fucking, get you a white man, XYZ, and you getting ready to see how much Esau fucking hates you, man.
Yeah. Jihad and Babylon.
Like I said, it's the time of Jacob's trouble. So what's going to happen is, Esau, again, he's going to be more of these. Eventually, people are going to get tired of it. They're going to start murdering.
God hates you all.
Getting fucking brains blown out. Then you're going to see Trump come on the news. Well, we got this is unacceptable is going on.
It's on fire.
Federal agents are trying to do their job, and people are interfering. They're crazy. Like we was talking about, we got to bring back insane asylums and shit. He was just saying that recently. So we see the play, man. So again, we welcome it. Call Lord Yahweh Shem Shah. Shalom to Hopeful Leg, man. Hey, double honors to Positive Game Millstone, man. We almost out of here. Endure. Shalom.